How's everyone doing tonight? Excellent. Thank you for attending our third lecture of the year, which couldn't be possible without the support of South Pasadena Masonic Lodge and the Illumination Lecture Series Committee, which I am a part of. Will the other members of the Illumination Lecture Committee please stand up and be acknowledged? We have so a little disclaimer here. As a reminder, all of our Illumination Lecture Series talks do not necessarily reflect the opinions of South Pasadena Masonic Lodge, the Grand Lodge of California, or Masonry in general. They are solely the opinions of the speakers unless noted. We simply invite them to share their thoughts and educate us on the far-reaching aspects of Masonic philosophy. Right. Tonight, I am happy to introduce somebody that has had a major impact on my Masonic career, my friend, and somebody I truly, truly do love. Worshipful Brother Dago Rodrigues is currently Lodge Master of Southern California Research Lodge, number 1005, which produces the award-winning Fraternal Review magazine. He served as the managing editor for the publication for the past 6 years. He was born and raised in Orange County, California, graduated from Cal State University Northridge in radio, television, film studies, and later received his MFA degree from the American Film Institute. In 2009, he assisted Brother Johnny Royal in the documentary Illuminated, the true story of the Illuminati. Brother Rodrigues is twice past master of this lodge, South Pasadena Masonic Lodge 290. He heads the candidate educational program and the co-chairman of the Illumination Lecture Series. He currently serves on 2 Grand Lodge committees, California Freemason Magazine and Masonic Education. He is co-founder of the Masonic Legacy Society, a national group of Masons who develop contemplative-related educational materials. He is a 32nd degree Freemason, Valley of Guthrie, Oregon of Oklahoma. In 2017, his lodge brothers voted him Mason of the Year, and he is that's right, 2-time recipient of the Hiram Award. In 2019, he spearheaded the renovation of the West Coast Masonic Con right here in South Pasadena. So if you would all please welcome Worshipful Brother Dago Rodrigues.
Thank you, Mike. Nicely done. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Did you stand up, Sean? What's wrong with you? Thank you for coming out, everybody, to our third lecture. Could it be possible, as he said, without the Illumination Lecture Committee that tirelessly puts all this stuff together, especially Brother Esteban Lopez, who put the broadcast that's happening today on YouTube. Thank you, Brother Esteban, for putting all the hours last night. Yes. So as Brother Laylaw was reading, I went to film school. My first year at film school, I was required to take a film theory class called The Critical Eye with this professor named Margot Kasdan. Margot Kasdan looked like this character from this movie, but with gray hair, just like that. When I saw this, I fell on the floor when this movie came out, The Incredibles. But in that class, she warned us that taking the class would ruin our innocent film viewing experience, because it was going to be in that class that we would study and analyze the vocabulary and methods of meaning that make the well-crafted movie more dynamic and profound through the use and power of symbolism. We spent the semester studying how films produce meaning because they convey the values, assumptions, and ideals of our society. This is why it was important to break down and understand how they work. This is one of the books that she forced us to read, which was great. Several years later, when I became a Master Mason, the ritual and symbolism bestowed on me had a profound impact. But my Mother Lodge didn't really deliver on Masonic education. This was like 12 years ago. And it's nothing against them. They just didn't know. It wasn't part of their culture. So I lingered, right, as a Master Mason, and I enjoyed the green beans just like everybody else. I collected all the lodge pins, like they were handing them out, and I just collected them and put them on my apron. And I saw that titles were important, and saw, as soon after, became an officer. Later, when I came to South Pasadena, I became a senior officer, and I had to memorize the lectures, when if you're not a Mason, they're between 7 to 20 pages long of heavy memorizing. So if you're a senior officer, you have to really put your head to the books and really get this stuff down. But I really wanted to feel and understand what I was saying. So I looked at this and I said, well, you know, it's been around for over 300 years. Why are we discussing the same thing over and over unless it has something important or meaningful to say, right? So I broke it down the same way I learned to break down screenplays, by looking at the intent, the motivation, the flow and action. And this led me into a deeper rabbit hole on Masonic education, because I saw that it was moving and powerful. The self-education would trigger in me a deep response that was moving and engaging. And I saw the connection between the two, filmmaking and Freemasonry. Both strive to compel us through storytelling and symbolism. Both communicate a visceral experience to teach us about birth, conflict, love, growth, death, and ultimately resurrection. It's a modern-day catharsis like no other that I saw the two sharing. The inspiration for this talk happened before SPML's Masonicon in 2019. I had been traveling to other lodges and spending time with them, seeing their Masonic educational weekends that they were having. And there I would meet brothers that would talk about the connection pop culture has with Freemasonry. And Fight Club was always one of the films that would come up, and they would reference in parallels to Freemasonry, which I thought was interesting. And I invited them. I said, well, when we do our Masonicon at South Pasadena, why don't you come by and let's have a panel discussion about it, and let's see what people think, because I think it's worth sharing. So in 2019, when we had our Masonicon here, right over here on the east, we invited Brother Adrian Foley, past master of Pacific Palisades Lodge, Whence Came You creator, Robert Johnson, myself, and from Massachusetts, Brother Michael Jarzabek. It was a great talk. It was only like 20 minutes. Everything was going late, like a lot of these, educational things happen during the weekends. So we only had about 20 minutes to really talk, and when we were done, it really left something to be desired. We really wanted to explore it more. So I said, well, the Research Lodge is about to have their meeting, their executive committee meeting, and they're going to discuss themes for the following year. So why don't I bring up the idea of having Fight Club be one of these magazines that we do? So when I brought it up before the executive committee, they looked at me half bewildered. They were like, well, how does that connect? How is that going to work? Half of them hadn't even seen the movie. And they were like, how are you going to fill an entire Masonic publication with a story about a male chauvinist anarchist and a passionless insomniac schizophrenic? And I made the case that I'm making here today. Role models, I said. The movie, it's all about role models. I want to focus on the importance of role models. And even though these characters are the complete opposite of role models, there is a truth that connects their emotional journey in Freemasonry. Through our critical breakdown of the Masonic philosophy and its symbols, the story of Fight Club will prove to us that underneath all the blood, cursing, sex, and male misogyny, there is a valuable lesson in this postmodernist film. The real story of Fight Club is to become greater than ourselves, whether it's fighting the world around us or the world within us. Fight Club poses the question, how much are you willing to fight for the truth? But sometimes we need to acknowledge who we are and where we come from to truly begin to explore that question. In this first clip that I'm going to show you, the two protagonists, if you will, after a night of underground fighting, are cleaning themselves up and discuss who they would fight if they could fight anyone. And I want to warn you, the movie is rated R. All my clips are also rated R. There's a lot of cursing, blood, guts, fighting, and guns. I did, however, cut out the sex because my mom is watching tonight.
If you could fight anyone, who would you fight? Fight my boss, probably.
Really?
Yeah, why? Who'd you fight?
Fight my dad.
I don't know my dad. I mean, I know him, but he left when I was like 6 years old, married this other woman, had some other kids. He like did this every 6 years. He goes to a new city and starts a new family.
Fucker setting up franchises. My dad never went to college, so it's real important that I go.
That sounds familiar.
So I graduate. I call him up long distance. I said, Dad, now what? He says, get a job.
Same here.
Now I'm 25. Make my yearly call again. Say, Dad, now what? He says, I don't know. Get married.
I mean, you can't get married. I'm a 30-year-old boy.
We're a generation of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is really the answer we need.
In this next clip, they want to go a little higher and fight public figures.
Sometimes Tyler spoke for me.
Fell down some stairs.
I fell down some stairs. Fight Club became the reason to cut your hair short or trim your fingernails.
Okay. Any historical figure?
I'd fight Gandhi.
Good answer.
How about you?
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Big guy, big reach. Skinny guys fight till the burger. Hey, even the Mona Lisa's falling apart.
These two clips illustrate how the absence of role models has had a profound effect on how they view the world. Bleak, empty, compromised, lonely. Brother Darren Lawners wrote in The Importance of Being a Male Role Model, my generation has been bombarded with years of targeted advertising that teaches happiness equals stuff. We are conditioned to believe that success is a measurement of what you own, not who you are. We've been taught to consume, consume, consume. Couple this with many of us not having a real male role model growing up. Is it any wonder we are all angry and selfish children? The current state of the world is at odds. A pandemic, division, mistrust, protest, class struggle, lack of education, lack of health, lack of common sense. And now more than ever, we have younger men entering our lodges who are tied to their mobile devices and are consumed by social media and advertising like no other generation. Their identities are now formed by social media influencers or deliberately packaged entertainers. Most enter our doors asking, who am I? Tell me. The search for identity and spiritual connection is far greater now than ever before. Check out this clip.
No, wait. Back up. Let me start earlier. For 6 months, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. With insomnia, nothing's real. Everything's far away. Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy. When deep space exploration ramps up, it'll be the corporations that name everything. The IBM Stellar Sphere, the Microsoft Galaxy, Planet Starbucks.
Gonna need you out of town a little more this week. We got some red flags to cover.
It must have been Tuesday. He was wearing his cornflower blue tie.
You want me to deprioritize my current reports
Yeah.
until you advise of a status upgrade?
Make these your primary action items. Here's your flight coupons. Call me from the road if there's any snags.
He was full of pep. Must have had his grande latte enema. Like so many others, I had become a slave to the IKEA nesting instinct.
Yes. I'd like to order the Erica Picari dust ruffles.
If I saw something clever, like a little coffee table in the shape of a yin-yang, I had to have it. The Klipsk personal office unit, the Hovatrek home exerbike, or the Ohaneshov sofa with the string green stripe pattern. Even the Rizlampa wire lamps of environmentally friendly unbleached paper. I'd flip through catalogs and wonder, what kind of dining set defines me as a person? I had it all, even the glass dishes with tiny bubbles and imperfections, proof that they were crafted by the honest, simple, hard-working indigenous peoples of wherever.
I was holding.
We used to read pornography. Now it was the Horchow collection.
No, you can't die from insomnia.
This movie was released 20 years ago. Has anything changed? The material world now defines us if we let it. The need for role models in the current state of affairs has never been more important. Where are we as Freemasons? How are we representing ourselves? Why do we matter now more than ever? What are we as the seasoned Freemasons doing at our lodges to be the example to our younger brothers? Think back to when you first entered a lodge. You mustered the courage to cross the West Gate, but what were you really looking for? What did you want? What did you really need? There is an insecurity, a masculine anxiety that every man must face, and crossing the threshold of a lodge, I feel, is an excellent first step in facing it. When we enter our respective mother lodges, we wanted to be inspired by the strength of others. Moved, we wanted to make a connection with at least one person at this lodge that would motivate us to be better, on purpose or inadvertently. But do we as Masons know how to provide it? What are we doing about it, and how do we exemplify it? In this next scene, our narrator becomes addicted to support groups. He finds meaning within himself through the weakness of others, which is a complete opposite as to why we come to our respective lodges, which was or is to be inspired by the strength of others.
Go ahead, Cornelius. You can cry.
And then something happened. I let go. Lost in oblivion. Dark and silent and complete. I found freedom. Losing all hope was freedom.
It's okay.
Babies don't sleep this well. I became addicted. If I didn't say anything, people always assume the worst.
Welcome, Travis. Welcome, Travis.
They cried harder, then I cried harder.
Now we're going to open the green door, the heart chakra.
I wasn't really dying.
Deeper inside,
I wasn't host to cancer or parasites.
you step inside.
I was the warm little center that the life of this world crowded around.
Imagine your pain as a white ball of healing light. It moves over your body, healing you. Now keep this going, remember to breathe, and step forward through the back door of the room. Where does it lead? To your cave. Step forward into your cave. That's right. You're going deeper into your cave. And you're going to find your power animal.
Slide.
Every evening I died, and every evening I was born again, resurrected.
There we go. The bottom line is that we live in a time when men, and more importantly, fathers, are distracted, overworked, harassed, exhausted, disinterested, chemically dependent, divorced, or simply not around. It is any wonder that men no longer have a firm grasp on what it means to be a man. Moreover, in the absence of adult male role modeling in the family structure. Is it any wonder that children are also unclear about the purpose and meaning of manhood in America? The illustrious Robert G. Davis in Understanding Manhood in America writes, Defining and understanding manhood is arguably the most significant sociological dilemma in our society. But it wasn't always that way. And it doesn't have to continue to be that way. As men, we don't have to formulate our masculine identity out of thin air. Neither do we have to accept someone's definition of appropriateness in manhood. Nor do we need to adhere to outdated and archaic models of masculinity. We are not obligated to be the men our fathers and grandfathers were. We need to reclaim our appropriate roles as men, take on responsibilities of manhood with our own eyes, and pass what it means to be a man to each succeeding generation of men. Over the past several decades, American men have bought into the notion that an image of manhood can be depicted on the screen and safer than real life. Perhaps men intuitively know that the failings of their own gender well enough to also fear modeling themselves after other men. When we don't know who we are, it is much easier to model oneself after an image of a man that has been packaged by a camera. This is precisely the mindset that makes a John Wayne or a James Bond a hero icon. So that was my simple explanation on how I convinced Fraternal Review to publish the issue of Fight Club, right? That's what I asked, and they bought it, and they said, all right, let's do it. And on April 2020, the issue was released right after the pandemic closures, nonetheless. So, which was, in a way, a good thing because we were all at home. We were more into reading our stuff, and there was more time to study, right? And at the end of the year, this issue was the most downloaded issue off the website in 2020. So there is some sort of powerful connection between Freemasonry and pop culture that people enjoy reading, especially Masons, and understanding. So it was not a waste, right? Who has not seen the movie Fight Club? What? You? Well, I'll ruin it for you. Fight Club, let's give a quick history. Chuck Palahniuk is the author of the book. It was published by W.W. Norton Press in 1996. This was not his first book, though. His first book was a book called Invisible Monsters, about a supermodel that wants to commit suicide and misses and shoots her jaw off and has to go through reconstructive surgery and therapy. And during the therapy session, she meets a man that's transitioning to be a woman. They become best friends and go on this road trip. And that's what the book is about. It's a great book. I read it. I think it's really funny. But everybody thought it was too fringy, too weird. The publishers said, no, we don't want to publish this. And he was a bit upset about it. And he retreated back to Portland, Oregon, where he wrote the anti-establishment movie. And that's what Fight Club ended up being. Fight Club was his first official published book. He's now published 19 novels. The rights to Fight Club were purchased by 20th Century Fox for $10,000. Screenwriter Jim Wools was hired to adapt the screenplay. Director David Fincher came on board to direct it. He was a commercial and music video director, a very well-renowned, award-winning commercial and music video director. And this was his fourth feature, his first being Aliens 3, the one with Sigourney Weaver shaves her head and there's no guns on the spaceship. 7, and The Game. The film was rounded out with the cast, which includes, obviously, Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden, Edward Norton as the narrator. In the movie, he calls himself Jack, but in the book, he's the narrator. Helen Bonham Carter, Jared Leto, all now Academy Award-winning or nominated actors. And in the center there, you have Grammy recording award-winning artist Meat Loaf. The film was shot in the summer of 1998. It had a budget of $63 million. And it finished production in December of that same year. It was officially released on October 15th, 1999. Immediately, the film was destroyed. That was a release poster. It's got mixed reviews, but mostly people called it irresponsible, violent, chauvinistic, masochistic, and even anti-woman. But by the same token, there were other reviewers that said, hey, this is actually worth your time. Rarely has a film been so keyed on its time variety. How good is Fight Club? It's so fired up with explosive ideas and killing humor that the guardians of morality are yelling, danger, keep out. That's how good, Rolling Stone. This is the first truly meaningful movie about the Generation X experience, and it arrives at a time when it's almost certain to be misunderstood. Time Out, New York. The movie flopped. It didn't really make that much money domestically. It made $37 million, worldwide $63 million. By industry standards, that wasn't that great of a release. They thought the film was done, dead, forgotten. Let's move on, until a new technology was catching fire and gave it a new light, and that was DVD. With the release of its initial DVD, its slick packaging, 2-disc special edition, it actually sold within, I think, 3-4 years, brought in an extra $55 million, making it an instant cult classic and one of the most profitable titles of that time for 20th Century Fox. A cult film is a film that you define it as a film that's released in theaters and nobody watches, but then when it comes out on home video, it finds a new generation that makes it popular, or people just watch it so much that it becomes part of the social vernacular, if you will. And that's what's defined as a cult classic. So much so that Entertainment Weekly in the May of 2003 put out a list of the top 50 cult movies, and they mentioned Fight Club in there as a misunderstood masterpiece. There you have it. So how do we truly connect Fight Club to Freemasonry and their need for role models? We will use the symbolism, morals, and the rules of the Fight Club world to prove the subversive point the film makes. Without positive role models, there is no moral compass to gauge our actions, to build stronger character, and even though we might convince ourselves that we are doing it for all the right reasons, we might actually be doing it for the wrong reasons. I will illustrate these points by connecting the Masonic symbology and allegories of the need of purpose, duality of man, the power of initiation, the Ashlers, power of initiation, divestment of the material world, and secrecy in connection to the Fight Club world. I will use these Masonic teachings to prove the parallels Fight Club makes with our craft and our need for role models. So basically, I would say when we see some of these clips, see how they run parallel to our Masonic philosophy or our Masonic teachings or our Masonic ritual. And that's how we'll break it down and study it, kind of like a 290 cinema class we're going to have here, okay? Are we up for it? Or are we done? Or should I just end it here and have a drink? All right. All right. Need of purpose, be something meaningful. So, I played a clip already of the narrator becoming part of a support community. Now in this next clip, his alter ego downloads more meaning or understanding to their purpose.
Look around, I look around. I see a lot of new faces. Shut up! Which means a lot of you have been breaking the first 2 rules of Fight Club. Man, I see in Fight Club the strongest and smartest men who've ever lived. I see all this potential, and I see it squandered. God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. We're slowly learning that fact. And we're very, very pissed off. The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about...
In this clip, Tyler Durden gives us meaning to their cause, to their movement. These are not just fights, these are atonements to their survival and a rebirth in understanding their existence. How did the American Revolution, which began in 1775, really start? Historians point to the Boston Tea Party, where a bunch of locals dumped the English tea overboard as a sign of protest that they would not live under British rule. How many of those were Masons? Some, yeah. Brother John Hancock, Brother Joseph Warren, Brother Paul Revere, to name a few. Masons didn't just participate, they downright planned it. Once again, this is from Millennial Apprentices by Brother Samuel Friedman. Once again, it is interesting to note that almost all democratic revolutions of the 18th and 19th centuries were led by Freemasons of several continents. While conspiracy theories view this fact as proof of a worldwide plot by the craft, the truth is far simpler. Those who inculcate the tenets of Freemasonry will be inspired to correct the ills of the world. The democratic revolutions of the 18th centuries are a direct outgrowth of this. Later in the film grows larger. The group grows larger. They each call themselves Space Monkeys. They also title their new mission Project Mayhem. Now, instead of fighting over each other, they are fighting the system. Destroying Blockbuster video stores, vandalizing BMW dealerships, blowing up Apple computers, all leading to their ultimate goal to destroy all the credit card company buildings in the city. By the complete opposite, Masons are builders, civic-minded examples that believe in the greater good of the whole. And erect structures that are used to improve and foster harmony in the surrounding communities. Public schools, hospitals, national monuments, libraries, museums, buildings of service and knowledge, because when we help one, we help all. When a candidate crosses the threshold of a lodge, he is unaware of the many facets he holds within himself to improve the world around him. It's up to the role model, the seasoned Mason, to make the candidate aware of the inner strength he has to contribute to the community in a positive way. One way is by educating the candidate of the tools and symbols we use in our craft. Another part of that is making him understand how to balance the dark and the light, the good and the evil, the duality within himself. The duality of man. In this next clip, the narrator has finally become aware that his alter ego, Tyler, is really him, and has discovered the master plan to blow up the credit card companies in the city. Coming to his senses, the narrator wants to stop him, but Tyler takes him captive and makes the narrator aware that this was always what he wanted. This was always part of his subconscious plan.
I'm begging you, please don't do this.
I'm not doing this. We are doing this. This is what we want.
No, I don't want this.
Right, except you is meaningless now. We have to forget about you.
You're a voice in my head.
Your voice in mine.
You're a fucking hallucination. Why can't I get rid of you?
You need me.
No, I don't. I really don't
Hey,
anymore.
you created me. I didn't create some loser alter ego to make myself feel better. Take some responsibility.
I do. I am responsible for all of it, and I accept that. So please, I'm begging you, please call this off.
Have I ever let us down? How far have you come because of me? I will bring us through this. As always, I will carry you, kicking and screaming, and in the end, you will thank me.
I'm grateful to you for everything that you've done for me. But this is too much. I don't want this.
What do you want? You wanna go back to the shit job? The fucking condo world watching sitcoms? Fuck you. I won't do it.
Oh my God. This can't be happening.
It's already done, so shut up. 60 seconds. You'll see all right.
No. I can figure this out. I can figure this out. This isn't even real. You're not real. That gun is even in your hand. That gun's in my hand.
Hey, good for you. Doesn't change a thing. Why you want to put a gun to your head?
Not my head, Tyler. Our head.
Interesting. Where you going with this, IKEA boy? Hey, it's you and me. Friends.
Tyler. I want you to really listen to me.
Okay.
My eyes are open.
What's that smell?
Don't worry, he doesn't really die. Only metaphorically. Aside the violence and gore, this scene is about conquering his inner demon that the narrator takes control of his life to create inner balance and peace. Finally, he can be in harmony within himself and those around him. When we use the word light to refer to knowledge, information, divinity, inspiration, but what of the darkness? According to Francis Bacon, in order that we see the light, in order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. And Shakespeare wrote, "The web of our life is mingled yarn, good and ill together." Our travels through human existence are checkered with moments of both light and darkness, good and evil. Our collective moments of triumph are bracketed by our failures. This causes many to ask the question, if light is the wellspring of goodness and the energy that brings life to the earth, why would darkness be so prevalent in the great design of our existence? It is difficult to reconcile the darkness as evil acts pervade the world around us and throughout history. It is exactly this contrast that defines human existence. The duality of light and dark is the core of consciousness and free will. Free will is the capacity to decide our own fate and to choose how to interact with the world around us, rather than acting on instinct alone. Free will is facilitated by the concept of choice. By having knowledge of both good and evil, we are able to create our view of the world and act accordingly. From the start, the symbolism of the mosaic pavement is laid before the candidate to make him aware of the dual facets of man. There is a dark side and a light side to each and every one of us, and until we learn how to control those dual natures, we will never achieve peace and harmony within ourselves. This will be the basis of the individual's character and the actions that he will decide to take. And what do our constant actions do? What do they build? They build character. But this action can only take place by the constant work of chipping away at the rough and superfluous parts of our daily being to eventually become a better and more perfect stone, like the symbolism of the Masonic ashlars, chipping away at the rough and superfluous parts. In this clip, the narrator is intrigued by the power of Fight Club with the example of Ricky, a rough stone that violently becomes a smoother one.
This kid from work, Ricky, couldn't remember whether you ordered pens with blue ink or black. But Ricky was a god for 10 minutes when he trounced the maitre d' of a local food court. Sometimes all you could hear were the flat, hard packing sounds over the yelling. Or the wet choke when someone caught their breath and sprayed. You weren't alive anywhere like you were there. But Fight Club only exists in the hours between when Fight Club starts and when Fight Club ends. Even if I could tell someone they had a good fight, I wouldn't be talking to the same man. Who you were in Fight Club is not who you were in the rest of the world. A guy came to Fight Club for the first time, his ass was a wad of cookie dough. After a few weeks, he was carved out of wood.
The famous sculptor and ardent Freemason Gustav Bergblom was asked how he carved stones into beautiful statues. And he once said, "It's very simple. I merely knock away with hammer and chisel the stone I do not need, and the statue is there." It was there all the time. Early in the lessons of our craft, we were taught the meaning of the ashlar, a stone as taken from the quarry in its rude and natural state and handed over to the artisans whose tools made it fit for placement in the temple. The transformation from its rough and to perfect state is adequate to represent the transformation we are seeking in our lives, while attaining a higher state of consciousness and rising to a more stately existence. Since the working tools of the old craftsmen were indispensable to their success, we have appropriately retained what they used as symbolically necessary to our spiritual edification. Worshipful Brother Merrick Hamer writes, "Now, whether in rejoicing or in fear or in prophecy, these living stones are symbolical and outward expressions of what lies hidden beneath the coarse barrier shielding the human interior realm. Stones generally regarded as rigid, cold, inanimate, are actually sacred and Masonic portals to the deepest realms of the human psyche, the depths of the soul. Therein may be discovered one's profounder knowledge and greater powers. Whatever within him that is holy and divine cannot be adequately expressed in outward terms. Pure and holy intents are only capable of being known and expressed inwardly. Hence, know thyself is the ancient charge and launching point of the mystery school from which Freemasonry has certainly descended. And the beginning stage of their initiation into a lodge is the start of that internal transformation." In this next clip, the applicants are partially initiated by waiting for 3 days out in the cold to see if they are worthy to be allowed to join Fight Club. As we watch this clip, let's study and see how it relates to our own candidate admission in Masonry.
Too young. Sorry.
What's all that? What?
Right. If the applicant is young, tell him he's too young. Old, too old, fat, too fat.
Applicant?
If the applicant then waits for 3 days without food, shelter, or encouragement, he may then enter and begin his training.
Training for what? Think this is a game? You're too young to train here. End of story. Now quit wasting our time. Get the fuck out of here.
Bad news, friend. It's not gonna happen. I'm sorry if there's a misunderstanding. It's not the end of the world. Just go away. Go. Because you were trespassing, and I will have to call the police.
Don't you look at me. Do you think you're ever getting in this house? You're never getting in this fucking house. Never. Now get the fuck off my porch. Get off my porch!
Sooner or later, we all became what Tyler wanted us to be.
I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna get a shovel.
Got 2 black shirts,
Sir.
2 pair of black pants,
Yes, sir.
1 pair of black boots,
Sir.
2 pair of black socks,
Sir.
1 black jacket,
Sir.
$300 personal burial money.
Yes, sir.
All right. You're too old, fat man. Your tits are too big. Get the fuck off my porch.
Bob. Bob.
Like a monkey ready to be shot into space. Space monkey. ready to sacrifice himself for the greater good.
You are too fucking old, fatty. And you're too fucking blonde. Get out of here, the both of you.
And so it went.
Listen up, maggots. You are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else.
So what do we think, class? How do we connect it to Masonry? Anybody want to try? First thing that comes to mind is in the allegorical sense is the crossing of the threshold, right? You have the candidate seeking admission into this dilapidated house, a downright dangerous home in search of something greater than himself. Does he really even know what he's getting into? And Tyler, being the lodge Tyler, is protecting, or shall I say, guarding the west gate. When the candidate is finally admitted, he is asked about his attire, right, being all black, which is interesting because here at our lodge, when a candidate is going to be receiving his degrees, we ask him to wear his black suit or a dark suit to his degree nights. But we do it as a symbol of solemnity and reverence, unlike here, where it's more of a disguise to blend in with the night and not get caught during your nefarious acts that you're going to do. The entered apprentice then becomes the fellowcraft, educating the new prospects on how initiation works, role modeling himself after the senior officer, right? So when the candidate, the first guy that gets in, comes back out, he starts addressing the candidates in the very same manner as the Tyler Durden character was addressing them. And if you really look back at the clip, they're actually shot in the same frame and lens that Tyler was shot in, to psychologically give you that feeling that this is a mimicking carbon copy of the main character, which is interesting. And the master then sits watching through the window from his metaphoric enlightened throne up above the second floor, amused and being lit by the rising sunshine in the east. Whatever the circumstances, such exalted experiences result in an awakening of consciousness. This is the goal of the initiatic experience within Freemasonry. This awakening of an individual to his connection to the spiritual plane. The individual is no longer blissfully ignorant of a non-material existence and begins to thirst for direct communion with the spiritual reality which he senses. Brother Robert Hurd in the Initiatic Experience writes, each person who comes and knocks at our door, who seeks this wisdom that has been passed down from us from age to age, culture to culture, from recorded history and time immemorial, needs to know that whatever academic knowledge he possesses, whatever philosophical ideas he holds, whatever religious faiths he claims, there remains something more, something infinitely more for him to learn and to which the craft can help to lead him. This, my brothers, is one of the greatest facets of what Freemasonry has to offer, that it has something to offer anyone and everyone. They must know that this must not be sought for profit, for material gain, or because of idle curiosity. Not even for the reasons so many give, such as because my father, grandfather, uncle, etc. was one. It has to be a personal, internal quest for transformation, to make themselves better. Through their first initiation, the divestment of the material object is learned. It is the internal qualities and not the external qualities that define a man, which brings us to the divestment of the material world. Once you lose it all, you are free. We saw the clip earlier of the narrator in his apartment deciding what kind of IKEA furniture to buy and what kind of china best defines who he is. Well, eventually there's an accident, and that apartment blows up, and he loses everything. Alone, he meets Tyler at a local dive bar.
You know, man, it could be worse. A woman could cut off your penis while you're sleeping and toss it out the window of a moving car.
There's always that. I don't know, it's just when you buy furniture, you tell yourself, that's it, that's the last sofa I'm gonna need. Whatever else happens, I've got that sofa problem handled. I had
at all. I had a stereo that was very decent, a wardrobe that was getting very respectable. I was close to being complete.
Shit, man, now it's all gone.
All gone. All gone.
You know what a duvet is?
Comfort.
It's a blanket. Just a blanket. Now, why do guys like you and I know what a duvet is? Is this essential to our survival in the hunter-gatherer sense of the word? No. What are we then?
You know, consumers.
Right. We are consumers. We are byproducts of a lifestyle obsession. Murder, crime, poverty, these things don't concern me. What concerns me are celebrity magazines, television with 500 channels, some guy's name on my underwear. Rogaine, Viagra, Olestra.
Martha Stewart.
Fuck Martha Stewart. Martha's polishing the brass on the Titanic. It's all going down, man. So fuck off with your sofa units and string green stripe patterns. I say never be complete. I say stop being perfect. I say let's evolve. Let the chips fall where they may. That's me, and I could be wrong. Maybe it's a terrible tragedy.
No, it's just stuff. It's not tragedy.
Well, you did lose a lot of versatile solutions for modern living.
Fuck, you're right. No, it's... Oh, my insurance is probably gonna cover it, so... What?
Things you own end up owning you. But do what you like, man.
When asked to contribute to a worthy cause, the Mason finds he is penniless, unable to do so, naked and an object of charity. This is a reminder to aid those whom he finds in life and are in need of help. The scene should make him feel that he is nothing more or nothing less than what he is as a man, that he should be judged by what he is and not to be valued in terms of dress, possessions, a title, or money. We all must learn to be of service. When we all work with the intent that what we do is for the greater service of all, we come to terms with the idea that one is all. Being selfless and humble is at times an attack to the ego, but that balance must be met with the understanding that we are all one divine human race. We are all interconnected. But can you be trusted? Can you deliver on your promise when all you have is your word? How much do you value it? Secrecy. Secrecy and silence followed by a harsh penalty for a violation is an oath that is learned by every Mason, and in the Fight Club lore, that is no different.
Every week, Tyler gave the rules that he and I decided.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Third rule of Fight Club, someone yells stop, goes limp, taps out. The fight is over. Fourth rule, only two guys to a fight. Fifth rule, one fight at a time, fellas. Sixth rule, no shirts, no shoes. Seventh rule, fights will go on as long as they have to. And the eighth and final rule, if this is your first night at Fight Club, you have to fight.
Every Mason knows that a broken vow brings with it a terrible penalty. Let him also realize that failure to live mentally, spiritually, and morally up to one's highest ideals constitutes the greatest of all broken oaths. When a Mason swears that he will devote his life to the building of his father's house and then defiles his living temple through the perversions of mental power, emotional force, and active energy, he is breaking a vow which imposes, not hours, but ages of misery. If he is worthy to be a Mason, he must be great enough to restrain his lower side of his nature, which is daily murdering his Grand Master. He must realize that a misdirected life is a broken vow, and that daily service, purification, and the constructive application of energy is a living invocation which builds within and draws to him the power of the Creator. That is by Brother Manly P. Hall, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. Creative artists regularly apply, are you Da Vinci? There you are. Creative artists regularly apply this principle by constraining their work, holding it close until it is ready to be manifested. Such people have learned by experiencing a failure to contain their work. Not doing so drains off their energy and destroys their creativity. It is in this context that we should understand the obligation for secrecy imposed on the entered apprentice. As he works with the principles of the craft, he will learn about the nature of himself and his relationship to the universe and to divinity. These are intensely personal experiences, and secrecy is a container within which the individual preserves them. Why were these so slow? That was from Brother Kirk McNulty, The Way of the Craftsman. Being a man of your word, you say something, you mean it. The first oath is the moral threshold the candidate is trusted with, and the first oath is the moral threshold the candidate is trusted with that only he can violate. This is his first big step in the craft that helps define and shape his character. The trust of his brothers, the trust of the world around him, and the trust within himself. And here, my friends and brothers, is where Fight Club and Freemasonry come to a head. When the narrator finally accepts his inner truth to his dark secret of being something that he doesn't need to pretend to be, he comes to accept himself. He realizes that the world he needed to fill, the void that he needed to fill in his life, was one of love.
You shot yourself?
Yes, but it's okay. Marla, look at me. I'm really okay. Trust me. Everything's gonna be fine. You met me at a very strange time in my life.
With your feet on the air, your head on the ground. Try this trick and spin it. Yeah.
After all the BS he put himself and others through, he realizes that the missing link was loving himself and the love for others. Because it is easy to spew hate, be evil, and destroy. But to love yourself and love those around you, and to serve society as a builder for the construct of the greater good takes work, takes courage, time, patience, perseverance. To build is to love. So we need to work on building our need of purpose, honing the duality of man, chipping away at our rough ashlars, contemplating the power of initiation, understanding the divestment of the material world, and being a man of your word by comprehending the true nature of secrecy. And that's how we begin our Masonic journey, from a rough and curious neophyte to a just and upright Mason. And through this journey, if applied correctly, we start to become the role models who inspire the men that enter our lodges to become better versions, not just of themselves, but of all of us. The Masonic ideals and Fight Club run parallel to one another in many of the rich symbols and meanings. And although we might not look at the flawed characters in Fight Club as direct role models, they serve an important purpose, if not a downright warning, of what can be produced when humanity doesn't have positive role models, real leaders to be inspired by, to strive to become, and to look up to. Is Freemasonry going to answer that call? I think it can. Because in the end, we are not our green beans as much as we love to eat them. We are not our lodge pins as much as we love to collect them. And we are not our titles as much as some of us have earned them. We are here to lead by example. Let's fight for that. That's it, class. Hope you enjoyed it. I got music. Oh, what? Thank you. Thank you.